Well, this is certainly a long time coming, and honestly, I really have choice words to say about this. But before we get into that, let me talk to you about Scooby Doo. I don't know about you guys, but Scooby Doo was part of my childhood since I was a kid. And honestly, though, that's no surprise to literally anyone in the audience, though. When I was a kid, Scooby Doo was part of everything that I've always worked for, though. I can't exactly recall which Scooby Doo show was my introduction, but it was either Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Or What's New Scooby Doo. But hey, I gladly take a lot of these Scooby Doo shows when I have the opportunity, though. At least that's what I thought. Yeah, I don't really know about you guys, but I actually didn't watch every Scooby Doo show out there. I watched most of them when I was a kid, and therefore, when I was 12 years old, when first discovering the internet, Scooby Doo was part of my fixation at the time, though. Though, honestly, when it comes to fixations, I know they're going to wear out any time, though. That's what happens when you go on to something that you're enjoying, and then all of a sudden you have to move on to something else. However, today I'm gonna have to tell you right now, though, this is not gonna be a pretty video. While I admit that some Scooby shows are can be worse than others, though, especially the one called Shaggy and Scooby Get a Clue, which I watched when it was on Kids WB at the time. But hey, I will rather take that along with, say, Scrappy Doo shows, and I'd rather take those over what we're going to be looking at today, Velma. So strap yourselves in, folks, because we're going into a bumpy ride, and one that won't stop being bumpy. So let's get started. Let's go. Man, it's been a while since I've last done that countdown. Anyways, today we're going to be looking at Dark Flamingo's Writings, which is a show that I haven't really been looking forward to, but I actually do remember I wanted to talk about it when I started my channel. And honestly, it's been a long time since I've done my Dark Flamingo writings, so let's get on to Velma. Now, I'm going to have to stress this enough, though. When I first saw the trailer of Velma, I already knew this was going to be a bad show from the start. And I know what some guys are thinking. That's a bit biased. And my response to that is I'd rather be more biased than I am going light on this show. Anyone who's seen Velma already knows what this show is like in a huge nutshell, or in this case, a skull, if anything to judge by. Though seriously, the skeletons in my closet are probably haunting me right now, and I don't even have skeletons though. So yeah, I guess you can already tell we're not in for a fun ride. So, Velma, when it comes to having shows adapted from something that kids will enjoy and something that adults are gonna easily hate, yeah, you know that's not gonna be a good sign. Especially because Velma is one of those shows that I personally have to ask the question, why did this need to exist? Aside from maybe a little more on, say, what happens when you make something from a kid show to an adult show, you already know it's not going to be anywhere near as fun as it could be, though, at times. Though, to be fair, I think everyone and their grandmother would probably ask this question a lot of the times when it comes right down to it, though. But even with that said, however, I could not understand what was getting into Velma's creation when it comes to that. From what I can tell, though, from behind the scenes, they say it's supposed to be something out of, saying, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but honestly, I'd rather wish I were watching that than grow a tumor from this abomination. And from the reviews I've seen, I can definitely see why that is, though. Now, one thing's for sure, though. I didn't ask myself to want to do this show, but the more I thought about it, the less I can't overlook it. And it comes to no surprise that this is one of those shows that you have to wonder why. Like, why did this need to exist? Why did this have to happen? And so on and so forth. And I can already tell that when it comes to Velma, we're already in for a fun ride when it comes to the first scene of the show. Like, the first scene we get out of this year's show is basically underage girls, mostly around the high school, and having a shower in the girls' locker room, and we're gonna see two cockroaches having sex with each other. Have you ever seen such a show that would do something like this on screen, saying that, okay, we know this is an adult show, so let's shove it down your faces as much as possible. I'm beginning to ask myself the question, why was this necessary? Because of all the adult shows I've seen, although I haven't seen every one of them, I can at least infer you that they have never ever done this before. Like, if you're gonna make an anime adult show, you're trying too hard if you just make something that's adult content. Okay, we get it. Two cockroaches are banging on each other. We get it. But it doesn't matter because right after that, after they get squished by, it's none other than Velma. Other than the deep voice and the obvious clothing, did you think someone was cosplaying as Velma? Though honestly, when it comes to something like this, I wouldn't be surprised, given how little substance there is. And when it gets right down to it, I'm beginning to ask myself the wonder what the hell does this have to do with the reveal, though? Oh my god, it's Velma! Ooh, what a shock! I am so flabbergasted. I thought it was someone cosplaying as one. Ooh. But honestly, that's far from being infuriating, though. Although, honestly, what's more infuriating is how the characters are portrayed in this year's show. Now, I can understand if this were just your average high school show, just doing some kind of mysteries or something that's a lot funnier than that, but for the love of God, I can definitely see Clone High doing something funnier than this. And that show got canceled again. Seriously, HBO Max, why? But then, again, that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this show, other than Dark Flamingo's writings coming back. No, but still, and it's pretty obvious I know what some of you guys are thinking. What does this have to do with my anger at all? Well, guess what, guys? This is Dark Flamingo talking, not the other Flamingo, though she'll get back to you as soon as she can. One thing's for sure, though, when it comes to having shows made for adults, I have to stress enough, this is far from being the most infuriating and incompetent thing I could ever consider. The reason why I say that is because most of the time, this show tries a little too hard to make it look like it's something for adults, though while still doing so already, though. Now, I did say in the Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon that this is an awful idea, though. Having a kids show being adapted for adults is not always a good thing. Sure, I do prefer Samurai Jack, but honestly, what's stuck with me with Samurai Jack was easily what I said in that video. I said what made Samurai Jack stay true to itself is that it stays true to the story, the characters were likable, the writing was still top-notch, and even if it did have its flaws here and there, it wasn't over the top or trying too adult as they can. Yeah, there were forced jokes here and there, though, but they weren't as forced to say whatever this show tried to be that was funny, though. And that's another worry. Because this show tries too hard on itself, though, we have to immediately have to say what's obviously right in front of us. Like, the girl that came out of the girls' locker room and somehow doesn't have a brain with blood coming out of her head, though. Thanks for that, show. We immediately have to have Velma point out to us, oh, she doesn't have a brain. Like, I'm not even kidding, she's really doesn't have a brain. Really, it's like we couldn't obviously see that from the get-go of it, though. If you're trying to make a joke, I'm not laughing. And it's pretty obvious that this show is trying to be all horror and mystery like, though, but honestly, I'm still here looking at both of my thumbs. Yes, as a Flamingo, I have thumbs, and yet somehow I'm still wondering when the fuck are they gonna tell us the story, like when they're gonna do it from left to right. When it comes to the Scooby-Doo shows, I will admit some things part of it probably have not aged well, like the corny jokes here and there, but guess what? I can laugh at those more than whatever this show tried to do, though. At least if it's trying to be all dark comedy. I could never tell what they're trying to do here, though. And when it comes right down to it, I could barely obviously tell you if this show was trying too much for itself, though. Yeah, let's get the one thing out of the way first before we get started. The biggest elephant in the room has to do with Velma. And I'm not saying this because of how she's overweight. Shut up. I'm not that kind of person. No, my biggest problem with her is her attitude, her personality, her traits. Everything about it just makes me go ahead and bang my head up against the wall saying, when is she ever going to stop having so much screen time when it comes to something like this? I hate to be all a broken record, but why the hell did they have to think this show in particular had to be somewhat original? Which makes me beg the question, why not just come up with your own original characters and have your own Mr. Story then? I don't think I've heard anyone say this in someone that talked about Velma, though maybe I may have overlooked it because there's so many Velma videos I've seen so far before making my own, and it comes to realization that this show just does not know what the fuck is going on, though. Like, you get the sense of urge. There are so many things wrong with this show as is that Velma is always acting like she's better than anyone. No. Look, Velma may have had that snark in Mystery Incorporated, and I will compare this show to Mystery Incorporated, but do you know what's the difference there? It was a snark she always had. It wasn't something like, say, she only did it out of the sheer, oh my gosh, sheer boredom or madness to the point where you're gonna be exhausted saying, okay, we get it, you're smarter than everyone, who cares? Although it does make me ask the big question, if she's really smart, then why the hell does she act so stupid and condescending to a lot of these characters? Like, she's so obnoxious and arrogant to the asking questions all the time. Why was this necessary though? Like, not only is she narcissistic, but she also puts a lot of people down. Like, she'll basically talk down to them thinking, hey, you may have done something that was good at first glance or something, whatever bullshit, and then all of a sudden you work at it from there though. You know, I'm looking at my phone right now how the hell this show ever came across 2 seasons, but I'm still thinking that's far from only asking the only question. Oh, trust me, we're getting somewhere though. Just not anywhere in Velma. Yeah, the writing itself is so poor that I could barely get through one episode without feeling already obnoxiously mad about it though. Though honestly, when it comes right down to it, I'm still asking myself, why is this show even made or greenlit? But hey, at least we have some money somehow though. And Mindy Kaling, I don't want to say too much on her voice acting. I get she's trying to be the level-headed one though in this here show, but to be level-headed, at least try not to be obnoxious about it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna break my computer and then won't have anything to make my videos out of. Yeah, suddenly I'm starting to realize why I call myself Dark Flamingo whenever it comes to shows like this. Though honestly though, a lot of people may be asking, do I find this worse than adult party cartoon? Honestly, I can't really say for sure as hell though. Yeah, both shows are bad, but they're bad in different ways. Where Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon is trying to be all obnoxious because of all the grotesque humor. Here though, it's more like what happens when Velma tries too hard to make it look like you're making it to a horror series. Now, I'm not gonna say who's into horror shows for something for adults because I'm not one to judge. Though admittedly I want to talk about something that's horror related, so get used to that. But it's pretty obvious that this show is not even going so far as remotely trying in order to do so. It's bad writing at its finest. Hell, the picture I'm showing you with my commentary on top of it, there's something I have to point out though. If these monsters are supposed to be grotesque or horrifying or whatever because they're scaring Velma, then I got news for you. You're trying too hard to make it look like that. Maybe they're trying to make the implication like what they did with Watanuki and Kimihiro. Kimihiro Watanuki from Holic. And when it comes right down to it, I'd rather watch Holic instead of this show. I wanted to talk about Holic, but fuck me, I have to talk about it another time. Thanks for that schedule. But it's pretty obvious that this show is not even trying remotely in something else though. Velma is one of those shows that not just the character, but a lot of the characters itself is trying make them as much as they can. Like, again, if you're gonna make a mystery story though and try to have characters that try to solve it though, why not just come up with your own original characters? I know coming up with your original characters is not easy, but at least try something about it. Because as far as I know, you had to go so far as to pick up a franchise that someone, or in this case, a lot of people love, and then go ahead and say, fuck you, you're gonna have to deal with Velma in this position. Now, I'm not saying that Scooby-Doo can't work for something for adults, but honestly, something like Mystery Incorporated did this better. It had a lot of good writing, the characters were a lot more than what meets and purpose of that, and what's more, they actually had better material going with it. This show, on the other hand, lacks good material, good writing, and good characters. Although some of the characters could show their likability, but still, it's not really anywhere like that though. It's just glossed over. And that's another worry, because this show is going so far out of their leap just to say, hey, we know this that you love is gonna be all these characters you used to love. Now we're gonna make them insufferable and all that other stuff though. Some of these characters don't even move the fucking needle all the time though. Like, aside from Velma, there's also Daphne, who I'm guessing she's supposed to be like the alpha bitch we're not supposed to root for, but here I am going saying, why is she really wouldn't talk though when she doesn't have that much? That's outside of maybe being And the stereotypical popular girl, there's not much to her other than that. You make a plank of wood, in this case, look better by comparison. And I find that more interesting than whatever this show did. Not really, but still. And it's obvious that they also had a scene where both and Velma started kissing each other. What the fuck? I get that they did this in Scooby-Doo Guess Who, like they try to confirm that Velma is lesbian, but which is more worse? The fact that Velma's either a lesbian or the fact that she happens to be one of those characters that's so unlikable. I'd rather have a character that's a lesbian than being whatever the hell she was in this show. And honestly, I don't think any of us were considering that though. Though to be fair, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera are probably rolling in their graves when it comes to that, something like that though. And that's another thing I have to ask. Are they trying to make Velma into someone like Daria? Now, I was originally going to talk about Daria from a birthday video, but honestly, I decided to take a look at that on another her video, no less though. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to do it somewhere in 2025 because I want to talk about that show. Not exactly on my birthday, but still. And it's pretty obvious that when it comes right down to it, Daria had a lot more charm to her than whatever this show tried to do though. Yeah, and I wish I were watching that show as well though. Man, there's so many shows and movies I wish I were watching right now. But honestly, outside of that though, yeah, Daphne doesn't even show that much substance other than she's just that popular girl and she tries to get on Velma, blah blah blah, you know what I mean. And there's also some of these other characters, like say for example Shaggy. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not Shaggy, it's Norville. Norville, I tell you, Norville. Can I get it down your throat? Okay, I know that Shaggy's real name is Norville, but come on. Norville is probably one that I don't even know if I should like him or not, because sometimes he acts very much like a character I wish I were hanging out with, but other times he always has to go ahead and say that he's Velma's best friend. Norville, you're too good for this. Hey girl, I don't know what you've been smoking, but even so, I hope that pain was not worth it or something. And when it comes right down to it though, I did feel a little for Norville at first. Outside of maybe the race swap, which honestly, I'm not going to talk about race swap because everybody's talked about it, buffed about it at this point. But I really think that Norville did have some character to him. Say what you want about him being that bland, typical character that sounds like he could do more than what could have been, though. But I think he may have worked if they had the better staff behind the show and make him a lot better. Otherwise, he's just there to help Velma, and I'm guessing he kind of has a crush on Velma when it comes right down to it. I can't tell because this show is giving me a headache enough as it is. And it's pretty obvious that this show has so much of it, though, that I can't even remotely tell you how much it would have been like if it were the case of that, though. Yeah, you start to see a pattern here, right? A lot of these here shows are trying a little too hard for themselves and do something else about it, though. Hell, I can't even muster up how much this show really gets to me, and yet somehow I'm supposed to root for this here character, though. Next up, there's Fred, and honestly, there's not much I can say about him either. I mean, I guess you could say he's an alpha bastard in some ways. He can be stupid, but dear God. I know that Fred was not the brightest bulb of the show at times, though, but even then, I'll admit, he still had a lot of charm to him, though. Also, there's this whole thing about him and his family, like he also has something small inside of it. But, you know, I'm not going to go into detail with that. What I am going to say, though, is that why should I care about that? If it's supposed to be funny, then chances are I'm not buying it. Nor am I even going remotely to buy anything from this show when it comes to that. Okay, if you've been following me for a while, though, you may have noticed how angry I am with this here, though. And it's not just the characters. Not really something that's, say, well, the story or something like that. But you may have noticed I'm much angry with the fact that this has had to happen, though. Now, I realize this show did end recently because they did say it got canceled, but some people say it didn't get canceled, like Saber Spark or something like that. I really can't tell. But I'll be damned if this show did handle itself to be more than 2 seasons. I wonder why that had to be, though. People tell me that it's supposed to be a full season, like 20 episodes, and yeah, that was about it though. So they had to split it down the middle to make it look like it was 2 seasons. Though here I'm asking myself, why should I care if it's 2 seasons or not? For all I know, this show lasted longer than High Garden Spice ever did. They did try to make it look like it was a good point of that though, but honestly, I'm here wondering when the hell is the show gonna end? And yet, a lot of people, well, really tell me that they should have had more third season or something like that. No, just no third season. I think we've had enough of this show already. And to make matters worse, it gets even worse when they had to put in a movie. Seriously, I didn't watch the movie because I know I'm gonna grow a tumor afterwards, though. But even with that said, it still bothers me they try to do something like that. Hell, the show itself is going in the fucking title to the point of making it look like it's something else for a change. I don't think I've ever seen any show infuriate me this much like Velma did. Yeah, that's quite the accomplishment. Now, I already know some people are gonna say that there are gonna be bad shows out there, and you're totally right, there are gonna be bad shows out there. But if this show had done better than it did, what would it accomplished? I mean, Mystery Incorporated is a series that I'm sure a lot of us grew up with. I was the latter when it comes to Mystery Incorporated, though. Now, this may just be me feeling a little bit uneasy, though, but the only reason why I didn't grow up with a lot of Mystery Incorporated is because, one, I didn't have a lot of cable growing up, and number two, it just really was coming on at the wrong time. I usually go to school around a certain time whenever the show came on a certain time and piece, and what's more, even if I did watch it, I wouldn't have either way to watch it. My folks would always watch TV more than I would, and I would do my homework a lot of the time, so I couldn't really tell you that. But when watching the show on Netflix for myself to see what's it like, I'm gonna be honest, it's a lot better than you may think it is. Yeah, there are a lot of dark moments. Yes, there are a lot of things that could be questionable. But do you know what? That's really okay, because at least with Mystery Incorporated, I can at least say one thing. It was much more mature, though. Yeah. When you have a show like Mystery Incorporated that's more mature for kids to watch than an adult show could, you know you screwed up big time. And this is coming from someone who wants to make something for adults to enjoy. Yeah, I want to make something fun for adults, though, not something that you can talk down to your audience, though. Oh, and speaking of talking down to your audience, yeah, I don't put clips on my new videos, because if I do, there's gonna be some bit of copyright, though. Seriously, fuck your copyright bullshit thing. And it's pretty obvious that I was gonna say that they put the thing in where they say that they have this thing that they talk about how adults watch cartoons or something like that. Wow, way to talk down to your audience more, guys. And it's pretty obvious that I'm trying to stay low on this, but Mindy Kaling is probably just trying to self-insert herself in a show, which shouldn't be that surprising given the fact that she tries too hard to make anything look like that, but that's beside the point. I would go on and on about this show, but I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm gonna end this by saying Velma is a show that should not have existed, to the surprise of absolutely nobody out there. And I know that some people are gonna think this is just me randomly speaking a bunch of jibber jabble or something like that, but hey, that's what happens when you have to watch all these episodes. And guess what? I already know how it ends. Velma going to hell, people. At least I think she went to hell. I couldn't tell if she went there or not. But if she did, I feel pretty bad for the other Velma incarnations. Now, there was a video I watched that was like a Velma JoJo parody and such like that, but honestly, that was a lot funnier than whatever this was. Or how about the fact that Velma got ran over by a car, which I laughed my fucking ass off. But outside of that, there's not a lot of things I could say about this show entirely. Everyone else has said what they said on this show and had their piece. Like there with High Guardian Spice, I would not recommend this show to anyone. Though honestly, I think High Guardian Spice is one of those shows that tries to do as clever, and I still feel bad for the creator for it. Here though, it's more like, hey, we might as well come up with characters around the background, like say for example, make original characters in the background and then go on it from there. It's obviously pretty infuriating. Why can't you just make up your own original characters? Maybe the writing will still be shit afterwards, but at least they'll have something, though. Instead, you just put in the Hanna-Barbera characters that everyone grew up to know and enjoy, and you always treat it as such, though. Now, I'm not saying this because I hate the people behind it. I get what they're trying to do. I really do. But in my perspective, it just goes without saying that. It just goes too much out of itself, though. Maybe there are some people who can write a better mystery story, though. But honestly, as someone who's been writing for over a decade now, I can't muster up how they can do that without fucking up, though. Yeah. And for 2 seasons long, that's what I have to say about the show entirely. I mean, seriously, watching this show was a headache. It was a chore. And what's more, I don't think any of us were expecting that to happen, though. So, I really can't say how much this show infuriated me more than ever before, though. But honestly, I think that's the problem with shows like this. They grab your attention, and then somehow we're supposed to care about them. No, I don't think there's anything else I can say about Velma, and wait, calendar. Holy shit! Well then, I guess Dark Flamingo is gonna be going away for a while though. Yeah, I'm sorry for being so angry about this, guys, but when you have something like this, it had to be ripped to shreds to be teared a new one. But hey, I'm glad that the show finally ended though. Though honestly, given how much HBO Max wants to greenlit stuff with David Zaslav, yeah, I'm not holding my tongue for that a lot of times though. So with that said, however, I'm gonna talk about something on a birthday stream that you guys are probably weren't expecting though. But until then, I really hope you all have a wonderful time, and as always, stay Flamingo-tastic as I talk about one of my favorite anime out there. So until then, I'll see you all later, and as always, stay Flamingo-tastic. See ya!